Um, so, I really am a massive fan of the James Bond film series. Specifically the Dalton and Craig era, but I have nothing wrong with like any of the actors that have played Bond, or really, oh, I mean, some of the movies are better than others, of course, but I mean, apart from that, I love the James Bond series. But I thought, rather than just going straight in and jumping head first into doing like in-depth reviews of the movies, which I really feel comfortable with, I thought it'd be great to start the channel off with doing reviews of the books. I have all 14 of the original Flemings and Trigger Mortis, so I'm going to be reviewing those. I mean, I know Trigger Mortis takes place after Goldfinger, but for the purpose of this review, I want to do actually separately than the Fleming books because I want to get them all, you know, in a sequence and everything. My plan is for this series is to do at least up to the Blofeld trilogy or Spectre trilogy before No Time to Die comes out. Mainly because of the fact that, I mean, I know it kind of ties into that quite a bit. Obviously, ties more to Spectre, but I've got a feeling that there's going to be quite a few character beats and stuff, and things that call back to like Spectre and stuff. So that kind of makes more sense to me. So what I'm planning on doing with this video series really is just getting my quick thoughts on the books of Fleming. By the way, No Time to Die comes out October 8th in Australia, as well as many other places. So that's the deadline I'm going for. Not the UK, because they get it earlier than we do. In fact, they get it earlier than the rest of the world do. Yeah. So, I'm going to start my review with, well, my review series with Casino Royale. First off, that is that if you're going in expecting the film series James Bond, you might be a little disappointed because he's not so much the, well, he is suave, he's definitely that. He's not so much like the tough action hero here. He's a bit more, well, he's a bit more human, you know, like naturally, like, you know, you can't get to the, like, the, say, I don't know, what's the most Connery action hero film? You can't get to a Thunderbolt place without starting at, like, reality, essentially. Yeah, so if you're going in expecting, like, what we typically associate with James Bond for this series of books, at least to begin with, I don't know how the others do. I haven't actually read any of the Bond books before, actually. It's going to be rather interesting. Yeah, so basically just lower your expectations slightly for what you're expecting from James Bond the character. Having said that, the character of Bond that we get in this book is actually really, really fascinating. I don't exactly remember like any of the lines or like any of the descriptive stuff for it, but we get into his head and what he likes, which is great because obviously it's a book. You have to do that rather than like just being like, you know, just seeing it from his perspective and everything like that. Rather than like, you know, having him interact with people, you get inside his head a bit more in a book than you do in a movie. And yeah, the actual plot of Casino Royale, if you've, I mean, it's 2021, I'm assuming by now you have at least watched Casino Royale. If you're clicking on this video, you've probably seen it. There's not much difference in like the actual premise of the book, but there's a lot of difference in the way it plays out. Like, all the plot beats are practically the same from that to, well, all the characters end up in the same place in the book than they do in the movie, but the way they go about that is very, very different from here than it is in the film. But anyway, enough comparing the movie. The main characters in this, obviously you got James Bond. You know, he is 007. I think he's newly acquired rank 007, because we find out in this book, as we do, I think, in the movie. Okay, sorry, I'll try not to do it again. We find out that how you get to be a 00 is that you kill 2 people on a mission in cold blood, essentially, and if you kill those 2 people, you become a 00. He is the 7th one, hence 007. Apart from him, and he's a fascinating character in this book, you obviously have like Vesper, who is more or less the type of character that you'd expect from a book like this. Not really femme fatale, but not really a damsel in distress either. She's kind of this midway point between those two. And then you've also got, say, like Felix Leiter from the CIA, who is more or less James Bond's counterpart, but over in America. You've also got who is it? Renee Mathis, who I don't think is actually called Renee here. I don't think so. I think it's just called Mathis, but I'm gonna call him Renee. You got Mathis here, and clearly you got the Chief. You've seen the movie, clearly, if you're a fan of James Bond. There's a few moments that are kind of in the movie, in here as well, but they're pretty different. Like, for instance, there's 2 bomb makers in the movie, and they're also in the book, but they're not exactly the same, and they don't play out the same way as what they do in that. And I don't mean it to be like a comparison thing, but I can't really help it. And like, it's a fascinating scene. Like, Bond is just, and I'm sorry for spoilers, but just my thoughts. Bond is like kind of out the front of the hotel, I think, and he sees these 2 people in hats and everything, and you know, they're tampering with this device, and everything, and they blow up. So there are in fact 2 bomb makers in this book, but they don't exactly play out the same way. I'm rambling anyway. Another thing actually is I don't know how to play Baccarat because of this book. It basically goes very, very, very in depth into the rules of Baccarat and everything, so if I ever need to play it, I don't think that, after reading, how many pages is this? There's a good chapter in this book which is just dedicated to teaching you how to play Baccarat. Ian Flemming has a way of describing people, describing locations in his book, which he gets it. He is really, really good, and this is probably nothing that you need to have repeated from me. It's probably been said 1,000 times. I don't know. I don't really watch book reviews. Ian Flemming just has this way of just describing places that you really get like a visual sense without it like going on for too long. Like, you know how like in some books, which I won't name because that would just be rude to those books, but you know how like in some books that you read where there's like an entire, say, 45 to 50 page chapter dedicated to how a location looks. Flemming has a way of doing it which is very, very, very good. He has a way of doing it which, basically he gets the entire point of what those people do in a chapter done in just a single paragraph. And he does that so brilliantly throughout the book, and this is really, really fast-paced to read. It is phenomenal how just the way that that guy wrote is to be admired by any person wanting to write. Yeah. It's just really, really fascinating how he can actually write like that. And I honestly really, really enjoyed this book, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth a read from anyone who is at least curious or at least a bit of a Bond fan. I think that it gives you a better idea of what Ian Flemming and, well, like Bond and the entire world is. Um, yeah, Le Chiffre's plan in this is more or less exactly what it is in the film. Uh, Basically, he's pissed off a bunch of people. This time it's the Russians. I don't really remember the name of the. No, it's Quantum, but in the actual thing, yeah. Basically, he's taken a lot of people's money and he's trying to win it all back. And Bond, as well as Felix Leiter, have been sent in uh, to get him arrested, pretty much. The torture scene plays out really differently. Like, there is an entire chapter or two in this book, like after the torture scene, where Bond is just bedridden for like 3 or 4 weeks, or even longer than that actually, and he cannot move, he cannot do anything, and he literally thinks that he might actually lose all feeling down there. And it is devastating to read. But that's the thing, right? Like, even like in that, those really, really dark moments, the way that Fleming actually writes it, it doesn't make it like, ooh, I can't believe I'm reading this. This seems way too personal. I don't really want. I just feel uncomfortable. No, it's actually done in a way that like you get into Bond's head and you really understand him as a character more than, you know, the image of Bond that we see. Really, yeah. As I said, if you're into Bond, go out and read this book. Find it any way possible that you can. It's really, really fascinating and really, really interesting. Not everything in the movie is in the books. You've just kind of got to prepare yourself for the difference in it. But I think it's actually a really, really fun book. Dark, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not fun. Yeah, so Casino Royale, book 1 done. What if you've read it? What are your thoughts on it? I really want to read what you guys think in the comments section below, and I will see you next time for Live and Let Die. Alright, see ya.